Dillian the Body Snatcher right here. It's a champ. Big up to Sporting Icon. Subscribe. Otherwise, I might pay you guys a visit.
Right, hope you're all having a great day. Click that subscribe button if you don't mind, if you haven't done so already. So, going back real quick to the Deontay Wilder interview on IFL TV, where he spoke about Dillian Whyte and giving him a title shot. So, before we get into what Deontay Wilder has said, I'm going to give everybody a quick overview for those who don't know. If you already know, then sit back and listen anyway, of course. So, the WBC, they ordered Dillian Whyte versus Luis Ortiz for the secondary mandatory position. In other words, had Dillian Whyte took that fight, fought Luis Ortiz, he would be secondary mandatory. Not the official mandatory, because the official mandatory is Dominic Breazeale. Whether we like that or don't like it, disagree with it or agree with it, whatever it may be, that is what it is. Dominic Breazeale is the official mandatory. So the winner of Whyte versus Ortiz would be the secondary mandatory, which meant that, for example, Dillian Whyte beats Luis Ortiz. He becomes secondary mandatory, which means that he then gets a title shot after Dominic Breazeale gets his. But only when the WBC call it. And they don't call the title fights or the title fight for mandatory for at least every 12 months. So not only would Deontay Wilder be fighting Tyson Fury right now, and potentially a rematch, as I'm hearing now Wilder and Fury both have a rematch as well, then after then, if Wilder doesn't take on a unification fight against Joshua, which is the only one he can take, he then has to fight Dominic Breazeale currently, okay? And then he can fight Dillian Whyte, or be forced to fight Dillian Whyte 12 months later at least, potentially even 18 months. So of course Dillian Whyte wouldn't even get a title fight for around about 2 years. So ultimately, what's the point? Now, of course, it's a great fight anyway. I would love to see it. You guys would love to see Whyte versus Ortiz, of course, just for what it is, okay? But Deontay Wilder, he originally said to Dillian Whyte, if you fight Luis Ortiz next, I will give you a title shot. You have my word on it. So Dillian Whyte, he then got back to Deontay Wilder and said, okay, can I have that in writing, please? Because I'm not just going to do it just because you say so, because I don't trust your word. I don't want to be rude, but I don't. Deontay Wilder then responds to Dillian Whyte, which Dillian Whyte showed the entire message to DAZN USA on their YouTube and Twitter feed. So within this text message, Deontay Wilder said to Dillian Whyte, I don't have to fight you, I'm not signing that, and I can freeze you out, and I don't have to fight anybody for the next 2 years. So in other words, Deontay Wilder ducked Dillian Whyte. There's no other way of looking at it. He just doesn't want to fight Dillian Whyte. Whether it be because he's afraid of Dillian Whyte, or whether it be because he doesn't want to fight with Eddie Hearn in the audience, or on a Eddie Hearn promotion. Who knows what it could be. Personally, I think it's fair. But you know what, that's just my opinion. So, of course, there was no point in Dillian Whyte taking on Luis Ortiz because he couldn't get anything guaranteed from Wilder other than him saying it. Which, let's be honest, Wilder has said so many things and it haven't come to fruition. They really haven't. So, what's the point? So, anyway, on this IFL TV interview, he reiterated this because Cleveland Cassius asked him about Dillian Whyte, and he says, my offer still stands if he fights Luis Ortiz. In fact, everybody should fight Luis Ortiz before they fight me, but clearly not Tyson Fury, right? And clearly not anybody else, right? Because you haven't fought anybody who's been in the ring with Luis Ortiz, right? I might be mistaken on that one, but I'm pretty sure he hasn't. But yet Dillian Whyte has to do this in order to fight him, even though Dillian Whyte is number 1 in the WBC. So here is the conundrum. So Deontay Wilder expects everybody to believe his word, even though that's pretty much what he said. And then he started doing his usual rambling and diverting and not quite answering the question fully. Again, talking about the trees and the birds and kids playing in the park and whatever else he was doing, and how he had porridge for breakfast and who knows, maybe a slice of banana in it. Who knows? Okay, I have no idea what it was he was talking about. It's like listening to the Ultimate Warrior going off on some ranted chant and just chatting complete garbage, right? So no idea what it is that he was saying, other than the fact, the only bit that I kind of got was, my offer still stands, Dillian Whyte takes on Luis Ortiz and I'll fight you next. You have my word, you have me next. That's pretty much what I got from it. But that's no good unless you put it in contract form. But even if you did put it in contract form, again, here's the issues. And Wilder should know this. If he doesn't know this, then he's a complete moron. But there again, I don't know. I think Wilder is away with the fairies. The way that he goes on and talks and whatever, his head is away with the fairy somewhere. Okay? But again, here is the issue. So, Dillian Whyte takes on Luis Ortiz. Okay? He beats Luis Ortiz because Wilder said do that. So, going by Wilder, he'll fight him next. Well, he won't, will he? Because, first of all, is there a rematch between Wilder and Tyson Fury on both ends? So no matter who wins, who loses, there will be a rematch anyway? Also, the WBC will not allow it because the WBC are calling their mandatory position in December. So Wilder must face Dominic Breazeale next after Tyson Fury anyway. Unless, of course, there's a rematch in Tyson Fury or he's going to take on Anthony Joshua. Outside of that, he cannot fight anybody else except Dominic Breazeale. Wilder will then have to jump through hoops and speak to the WBC, who have already guaranteed Dominic Breazeale mandatory, to say, I want to fight Dillian Whyte next. I guaranteed it to him. He beat Luis Ortiz. What do you say? So he needs to get all this permission before Dillian Whyte takes on Luis Ortiz. It's one big game. So either he knows or he doesn't know his own division and his own sanctioning body, the WBC and their rules. Now, if I know it, and you guys know it, and Wilder doesn't, that's worrying. That's very, very worrying. So him saying that, him fighting Luis Ortiz, listen, all he's trying to do is put roadblocks in front of Dillian Whyte. That's all he's trying to do. Now again, people will say, well, Dillian Whyte had his chance. But he didn't though, did he? He didn't have his chance. And what people are alluding to was the fact that Deontay Wilder once said, I will take on and I will fight Dillian Whyte, it's not a problem, but you put Anthony Joshua in the contract. A lot of you guys will remember that. Originally, Eddie Hearn said, no, that's two separate fights. Fact being, Joshua, Dillian Whyte would never agree with that because they don't want each other's names on their contracts for anything unless they're fighting each other. They don't like each other. So, no. But anyway, after a little while, Eddie Hearn said, okay, fine. Let's talk about that then. Let's do that. You fight Dillian Whyte next, you get Joshua next. We'll put it in the contract. At this point, Deontay Wilder said, no, I've changed my mind. I ain't fighting Dillian Whyte. So there's that bit for anybody who wanted that clearing up. Okay. Again, there's plenty of other scenarios. I mean, just that message to Dillian Whyte saying he's going to freeze him out for 2 years. That's worrying. Dillian Whyte's number one in the WBC. And again, some people, I've heard him say it many times, well, what is it that Dillian Whyte's done to deserve a shot at Deontay Wilder and the WBC title? Okay. First of all, he's beaten Robert Helenius, who was touted as the next Vladimir Klitschko. He only lost one fight to Joanne Duhaupas, from which he was winning that fight up until he got clipped and he went down. Okay? Yes, Duhaupas is a former opponent of Deontay Wilder, where Deontay Wilder beat him. Even though he got laced up by Duhaupas virtually the entire fight. You can see his face. It's like he's been stung by a swarm of bees. Now, so that's one. The other one would be Lucas Browne. Say what you like about him. He was ranked in the WBC, top 15. In fact, if I remember rightly, he was ranked number 12 at the time. Okay? And the WBC said, yes, fight Lucas Browne. Defend your WBC silver title against Lucas Browne. So he did that. He beats Lucas Browne. Then this whole Luis Ortiz thing come through and he's like, well, why would I fight Luis Ortiz for not a great deal of money, first of all. And second of all, I'm not going to get Wilder anyway. So why would I jump through hoops and allow you to do this when you're not going to be giving me a title fight with Wilder for at least 2 years anyway? So then he decided to fight Joseph Parker in a much, much bigger fight, in a fight that sold out the O2 Arena, where Dillian Whyte made a hell of a lot of money against Joseph Parker, who's a former world champion. Only just lost his title the fight before against the current unified heavyweight champion, Anthony Joshua. Wilder's never beaten anybody like Joseph Parker, ever. But Dillian Whyte not only beat him, he became the first person to drop Joseph Parker to the canvas. In addition to that, he has wins over Derek Chisora previously. Say what you like, whether you believe Chisora won, whether you believe Whyte won. Facts are, The record shows Dillian Whyte won. Derek Chisora currently ranked WB in the top 15 WBC. In fact, I think just off the top of my head, I think he's number 10 currently. So let's flip it. What did Deontay Wilder do to get his WBC title shot against Bermane Stiverne? Do you know the fight he fought before then? Jason Gavin. Where was Jason Gavin ranked? He wasn't even ranked top 100, yet he gets a title shot against Bermane Stiverne. Before then, Malik Scott, who got punched on the gloves and went down and acted like he was out. I'm not a professional fighter. Deontay Wilder punches me and I have my gloves in front of my face. He's probably going to hurt. He's probably going to rock me. But it ain't going to drop me and keep me down. So, what did Wilder do to deserve his on 33 fights? And how many fights has Dillian Whyte had? He hasn't even hit 30 yet, has he? So, yeah, Dillian Whyte deserves that title shot way more than what Wilder did. That is a fact. And Wilder, he waited for Vitaly Klitschko to retire. So the whole thing stinks. The whole thing stinks. Now, I would love it if Dillian Whyte took on Luis Ortiz. That would be a great, great fight for me, and I'm sure you guys would love that too. But there again, he can fight Derek Chisora. What? Derek Chisora's guaranteed him $5 million. Not quite sure where he's going to get the $5 million from, but he's guaranteed Dillian Whyte $5 million. Would he get $5 million for fighting Luis Ortiz? Of course not. Of course he wouldn't. For me personally, I think that Dillian Whyte should go fight Dominic Breazeale. Pay Dominic Breazeale whatever it is that he requires and get that fight done. Then he becomes the official mandatory. So therefore, Wilder, right after Fury, has no choice but to either fight Joshua or Dillian Whyte. And as Eddie Hearn promotes both Joshua and Dillian Whyte, which fight do you really think he's going to put in there with Wilder first? As these are Wilder's only two options. It's going to be Dillian Whyte, in the hope that Dillian Whyte beats him, becomes WBC champion, and yes, there will be no rematch because Dillian Whyte is mandatory. If it's a voluntary, Wilder can put in a rematch, but as it's mandatory, he can't put in a rematch against Dillian Whyte, so therefore, that's the only two choices. Eddie Hearn would choose Dillian Whyte in the hope, as I said, that he would beat Deontay Wilder, and then Whyte versus Joshua in a rematch that many of us would love to see, for a vastly improved Dillian Whyte against Joshua. Again, Joshua's also improved. But it would be for undisputed, two British guys, for undisputed. Personally, that's the route I would go against Dominic Breazeale. But ultimately, if they end up fighting and Deontay Wilder can speak to the WBC and maybe get them to agree that if Dillian Whyte beats Luis Ortiz, then he gets to fight Deontay Wilder ahead of Dominic Breazeale. If he can do that, then yes, certainly. I would certainly be encouraging Dillian Whyte to do that because I want to see Dillian Whyte in with Deontay Wilder first. Yes, I am part of a minority, but for me, I'm picking Dillian Whyte to not only beat Wilder, but to beat him on points up until Dillian Whyte stops him. So he will dominate Wilder and then knock him out. But we ain't going to see this fight because Wilder isn't going to give him a voluntary and he's just talking complete breeze. That's the truth of it, right? Anyway, you drop your thoughts below about it, click that thumbs up, and of course subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.